Started. Good afternoon, all. This is the weekly Commissioners Finance meeting today, June 8, 2022, appointed hour 1:30 p.m. Arrived, we'll call the meeting to order and begin with the opportunity for public comment, as we always do. Anyone online? Doesn't appear to be anybody.
Ron Hostetter.
Brian Hostetter, he's
Moved him over, he's good.
He's
Okay.
part of the presentation.
Okay, so nobody else is online then.
All right, very good. Okay, so not hearing any public comment, we'll move on to item 3. We do have the draft minutes in hand of the meeting of June 1. We're looking for approval on that today.
Move to approve the minutes of June 1.
A second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to item 4, which is today's topic of discussion. Discussion and possible approval of the county's local use fee phase 2 local bridge program. So Mr. Stoner is going to be presenting, and we have other guests and present as well. Mr. Emberg and Mr. Hostetter from HRG, our bridge engineers, and Mr. Deck from Harrisburg Transportation Study. So Kirk, I guess you're kicking us off.
yeah. So I'll lead off. For the rest of the team online, feel free to jump in for anything that I miss. So Commissioners, on January 12th, we met to talk about the continuation of the $5 local use fee board authorized in 2015. At the time, we discussed 2 potential options. So you're looking at local bridges that were over 20 feet in length, and then also other transportation projects. So that was kind of the general catch-all category. The board made a motion at that time to continue to look at those 2 options and bring back a proposal. So that's what we're here to do today. The proposal that I'm presenting today was reviewed. We had our team involved. I also had the Transportation Committee of the Cumberland County Planning Commission look at it and give their feedback and input on it as well. So we had a good team to look at this. So what did we do since January? The first item here, if you follow our handout, we really confirmed the local bridge focus area and availability of federal funding through HATS. So if you recall, when we talked in January, through the bipartisan infrastructure law, there was a line item for locally owned bridges, and that carries over into the HATS tip. So there'd be $2 million total available for Cumberland County starting in 2024 for locally owned bridges. And these would be over 20 feet in length. That we would have the availability of that funding to fund projects here for bridges that are in poor condition. So as part of our analysis, we went through and looked at the bridges in Cumberland County that are in poor condition. There were actually 5 of them. So you can see the 3 here that were identified as potential targets in South Middle, Silver Spring, and Lower Frankfort. The Quarry Road Bridge in Cook Township was also a target, but it's not suited well for federal funds. It's in the state park, and the federal process for that project would be extremely difficult and expensive. So we're assisting the township with some other alternatives, and maybe back with some ideas that they would have at a future date. And then the Hemp Road Bridge in Silver Spring Township is already on the tip for funding and moving ahead. So really, when we look at these 3 poor condition bridges, if we work on them and either repair or replace them, then really in Cumberland County, for municipally owned bridges and county owned bridges, we no longer have any poor condition bridges that aren't poor by purpose. So what I mean by that is we've had a couple, I'm sorry, no, some of our bridges would still be in poor condition because they may be 1 lane, structurally deficient because of their function in the community. So we have some steel truss bridges that are out there, others that are historic that we've left in a certain condition based upon their historic significance to the community. So some of those that are out there, we're well aware of them, but they're there by design and not something that we're going to put extra money into to fully replace those structures. So we kind of went through and really qualified with HATS. We met with Steve. He and Andrew at HATS were very helpful in allocating or showing us the allocation of money that would be available to us. Dauphin County is launching a similar program. Perry County is considering their needs. So that leverage those federal funds, the $2 million worth of federal funds, is pretty important. If we don't use those funds, it could get reallocated to other projects. So as a region, I think it's important that we invest in these projects. And I think we saw that too with Dauphin County and Perry County, an interest in trying to use the funds for similar projects. So out of the 3 projects we scoped as potential targets, we went out and met with the municipalities initially just to share the concept and some initial costs with them. Everyone was very receptive of the program. And we looked at local match too. Those municipalities had local match on hand. they'd be willing to work with us. Now, that's not a final detail or the final cost that we have developed. That was really saying, hey, yeah, we want to learn more about this. We think we'd be interested in it. So as we bring it forward to the board for your approval, if it is approved, they want to hear more about the program. But it was good to see. I mean, so when you look at South Middle and Silver Spring Townships, they're two of our fastest growing municipalities. So you would expect that to some extent they would have money for these projects, and they do. Both these projects are priorities for those municipalities. And then Lower Frankfort Township, Wildwood Road, one of our rural municipalities, not a lot in terms of resources, but this is a bridge that they have been saving for a while. So it was something I think they received the potential offer very well.
Yeah. So they're okay with this municipal maps. They're
Right. Yeah.
capable of showing their.
So what our proposed program would be then, about 3/4 of the way down the page, that we want to leverage the $2 million of HATS local bridge line items to replace these 3 poor condition bridges. The federal funds would be primarily used for construction, and then county and municipal funds would be used for all phases. So when I say all phases, that's pre-construction and construction as well. The county would manage all work, so it'd be a turnkey approach. So we would take care of everything. I think this really streamlines the process, make sure it gets done right, especially when using federal funds, so that we're in charge and make sure that we know what's happening. We've delivered bridge projects like this before. And then really, what's our share of the program? So we look at a nearly $4 million program. Ours is about 20% cost, about $781,000. So when you look at that, that's about 1 year of our $5 registration fee funding. So for about 1 year of that funding, we can go out, do these 3 bridges in partnerships with the feds and our municipal partners, and really eliminate the poor condition bridges that are in the county right now. It's kind of the first year. I'll talk a little bit more about the second year and where we head from here. But if you flip to the second page, you see the split out of the cost of the program. So you can see what type of money we're talking for each project. For Ladner Lane in South Middleton Township, about $1.8 million. Silver Spring, about 1.5, and then Wildwood Road, Lower Frank's about $600K. And again, you can see the split of costs there that we're proposing. These would be the costs, the final costs that we want to take it back to municipalities to discuss in more detail if they're in or they're out. So that would be kind of the next steps. If the board looks at this phase 1 with the local bridge program proposals, we're interested in doing this. We would prepare what we're calling offer letters, where we'd outline full terms of the deal, how much it's going to cost, what our share is, what the local share is, timing of when money would need to be available, all the really nuts and bolts of the deal we take back to them, and then allow them time to review that, and then our elected officials take action to either sign or off the program. If everybody signs on, program stays as is. If we have someone drop out, then we go back and redistribute some of the costs to reflect the $2 million of federal funding is still there, but we just spread that over 2 projects or 1 project if some of the others drop out. So that's in a nutshell, what we're proposing for phase 1. So, take questions and discuss any discussion on that now. And if anyone else in the team has questions, comments to add to the discussion, I'd ask them to do that as well.
Kirk, do we have any locally owned bridges that are closed because of condition?
Not that I'm aware of right
These
now.
these are the bottom of the barrel, basically.
Yeah, so when you look at our bridges, so there's 47 bridges that are municipally owned over 20 feet that we inspect as part of our bridge inspection contract. By far, the municipal bridges are in a lot better shape than our county bridges were. It's 47 of them. We're centering in on 3 here. Now, there are a couple that are in the fair condition category that we want to keep an eye on. And there may be some funding available for those at a later date. But by and large, their infrastructure it's more current than ours and in better shape.
Let me ask another question, kind of a sideline, but so the registration fee dollars are now we are looking at allocating them toward the locally owned bridges. Do we have, what happens in the case of one of our county bridges where we have, like happened a number of years ago, there's a repair and then there's, an accident on the bridge that does substantial damage? Do we have additional dollars set aside as a reserve for that, or are all these dollars committed?
Right, so that's a good question, Gary. So what we're looking at with the local bridge proposal we're talking about today, that's really only 1 year of our registration. So take that, and then after that, then we can talk more about that here shortly, about what the rest of the program looks like. We do have line items in our program for maintenance each year. It's a set aside. But we're also projecting out some of the other needs we see with our bridges. And there's 3 larger resurfacing, redecking projects that we know that are coming that are going to consume some of this money. So not every dollar is allocated. I think that's an important part as we look ahead to kind of the next phase of this outside of these local bridges. We don't have that much money. I mean, it's $1.3 million sounds like a lot of money. But when you look at some of the needs we have, and then you look at the cost of transportation projects overall, it doesn't go very far. So we have to be strategic in how we invest that. I think that's where we want to start looking. Well, who are the other partners that we can leverage money to get some of these things done? So municipalities and some of the survey results that I've shown you, I think they're willing to put some match into the program. With the bipartisan infrastructure law, we're working with Steve and his team to identify line items and specific types of projects where there might be some additional federal dollars that can come back with our money, municipal money, and maybe get some more projects on the tip and leverage some of those other federal dollars.
Okay, so that's fine. I understand that. So my question going back, and you alluded to a number of other maintenance and projects on county bridges. So we have a schedule for those, and those dollars are available for programming. We're not cannibalizing any of the county bridge dollars on forward-looking basis for the municipals.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we still have needs in our county bridges, and we're still looking out for those and have planned expenditures on those.
Yeah.
We're not committing every dollar to these other projects, and we're left holding the bag of not having any money for our infrastructure.
But we're okay doing it like an emergency. Which bridge was that? We just finished it, and then it was a truck issue.
Well, we have Hurstville Bridge we had to close, the Wolf Bridge, there were emergencies.
There was one that was damaged right after we had opened it. But anyhow, so we have on an emergency basis, we do have funds available of these.
We have funds set aside for maintenance each year and emergency repairs.
Okay.
Not a lot, so you never know what's going to come at you, but.
Right. Okay. That's all I have.
Any other questions on? So that's so we look at what we talked about in January about locally owned bridges over 20 feet. That's that piece of the program. Now we want to talk about the other highway transportation project, which was the direction the board had given us at the time about the technical use. So when we look at the $5 registration fee and that local bridge program we just talked about, that's 1 year of funding. So it's generated about $1.3 million a year. Right, Carrie, that was our 1.3 million per year. So we can use that money to look at other potential projects that may be out there. So to help plant the seed for this, I did a little survey with our municipalities. I presented that at the MAB that gave us a little insight into what municipalities may be thinking in terms of their needs. So roadway resurfacing preservation, so roadway projects in general seem to be a high priority, along with culvert and drainage structures. So this was one issue that we presented back in January. The bridges under 20 feet in length, a lot of times are these culvert and drainage structures. We really don't have a good handle on their conditions statewide. There was a statewide task force that was put together. I sat on through the Transportation Advisory Committee that started to figure out what's a process we could get a better handle on the condition of those bridges. I know Steve and his team did initial outreach in Cumberland County to look at what they are. I think there's about 146 in Cumberland County. But we don't really have condition ratings on them, but that's an area that municipalities are telling us that there could be interest. Those projects generally are smaller in scale and smaller in cost as compared to a full replacement of another bridge. Grants, 20% match to 50% match are preferable to loans. Low interest loans didn't really appear to be a preferred funding option for any of the respondents to the survey. Again, as I mentioned earlier, I think there's a willingness to provide local match, which I believe speaks to our municipalities of having an understanding of what we're trying to do here. I haven't seen any of them come forward and want a free lunch and say, oh, the county should just pay for our infrastructure. They're willing to partner with us on it and recognizing our $5 registration fee isn't the county's money. It's money from our residents, our collective residents that live and work and drive in all of our 33 municipalities. So the money that we put into that infrastructure, whether it be in a municipality owned or county owned, it's still working to improve the infrastructure for our residents that are paying that $5 registration fee. Some have already allocated local match, and I think it had, others have not, but those that have not largely are saying that they would consider an allocation for local match in the future. And then how much local match? So that's where it starts to get, if you know how much is out there. Up to 50K, folks seem pretty good, and then you start to exceed 100K. I think that's where it starts to get a little sketchy if they have the money in place. So as we start to get a little more serious about our program, this next piece of it, I think that's when the municipalities will start to get a little serious too about what exactly they're saving for and how we can partner together. So again, some considerations here for this kind of phase two, the general improvement program for transportation infrastructure and accounting. Startup time is needed for us to collect money. So, while we get 1.2, 1.3 million per year, again, these projects are expensive. So trying to build up some money on our end to help do those projects is important. I think we have to determine the funding mechanism. Are we going to do grants? Are we going to do loans? It's something that I think the board needs to weigh in on, give us direction of what you'd like to see us do. And I think we can't miss the leverage opportunities through the TIP and other private funding sources. So program we just talked about, the local bridge program, is an excellent example of the bipartisan infrastructure while bringing money to the HATS. And then working with HATS, we're taking advantage of that, bringing $2 million back as a match to our funding and municipal funding as well. So looking through the TIP and there's other opportunities, I think is really important. Project bundling too is another one. So we were talking about those culverts and drainage structures. There's opportunities for projects to be bundled together and let together so that we have efficiencies and construction savings, which we can do with those 3 bridges that we talked about earlier. So we've seen opportunities, and we currently have a project that's under construction where we bundled 3 bridges, and there are economies of scale that we've gained by doing those and ultimately save us money. Final point, their larger projects are still better suited to the long-range transportation plan. So if you're looking at multi-million-dollar projects, our program may not be the best fit for some of those because we simply don't have enough money. So we may need to be looked to the long-range transportation plan, try and get some of those projects in the pipeline and build that pipeline so that we do see some of the bigger projects get federal and state funds. We can still provide match for some of those, but I don't think you'd see that we're carrying a lot of the cost of those all on our own. They're simply too large. So next steps, again, this is the phase 2 outside of this local bridge program of general transportation projects. If the board would like us to continue to move ahead and consider these, I think our first step is more coordination with HATS, talk about what's going on with the bipartisan infrastructure law, other categories of funding. We want to review the projects that were submitted by our municipalities. There's quite a list, actually. I think it's like 5 pages of projects that our municipalities had submitted with the survey. Start looking at those, see what's on the TIP, what's not, what may be locally funded with us, and then really start to look at where the priorities may lie. Are they congestion projects? Are they safety projects? Are they resurfacing? Where's the sweet spot that we may hit where some of this federal funding that's coming down that we may be able to work with our municipalities, put some funding together and leverage more money from the feds to get certain categories of improvements completed. The other piece, and this is one, I look for guidance from the board of whether or not you want to consider some sort of loan program. Dauphin County has an infrastructure bank. There's other counties that are looking at that. If this is something you want to look into, I think it's something that requires more research for sure. We're going to need some staffing for it. We need to figure out exactly what we're going to be doing. Are we just offering straight up loans to municipalities? Or are we going to be using other loans that are out there like the state infrastructure bank and trying to buy down interest rates on that? So we start to get into a whole nother area of offerings for transportation funding. I think we need to put some time and effort in to determine is it worth it? It may be. And then is it worth it? But also, is there demand for it? So I think from the survey, we're starting to see early indications there's not. So if there's not demand for it, when we offer something up, we could be holding money that could be spent productively on other projects or maybe leveraging TIP dollars.
Infrastructure bank for Dauphin County.
Brian, do you know that? It's their economic development office or their IDA?
Right. Their IDA goes through their economic development office and that who administers the program.
Okay.
So it's an option. I think it's a new option. It'll be a new option for us, and Essentially, I think we're starting to move in the realm of serving as a bank. We just need to figure out, is that what we want to do? And then what are the staffing requirements that come along with that? I can tell you it wouldn't be best staffed out of the planning office. And I've thought that the finance, I think, Harry from finance office as well, I think you guys are looking for some outside assistance as well. That may not be a good fit for their office either.
So now because that money becomes available to municipalities, are they bearing any of the additional cost for the administration of that program?
Sure. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, that would be part of it.
Okay.
I don't think it'd be something, again, Gary, that'd be something we'd have to research and see what it looks like. So you have the Pennsylvania Infrastructure Bank is out there already, 1.75% interest. So that product is there. If a municipality wants a loan today, they can go get one. We got one for Sample Bridge, if you recall that. So that product is out there. Whether or not we can beat that with our loan program, and there's other offerings we can do, that's something we would have to look at and see really what is there enough demand.
There's a lot of questions to be answered on how this would be done. So how do you anticipate approaching getting those answers?
For the loan program or overall?
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, for the loan programming, to me, it's a lot of some best practice research. Brian and his team from HRG helped design the loan program in Dauphin County. So we have, experts to help us out with some of that. I think we'd want to talk to the IDA, CADIC, and others to see where their interest may lie and start to scope out what it may look like. I still believe, regardless of which way we go in terms of next steps, talking with hats and looking at opportunities to leverage the TIP is an absolute must. I think the loan program could be a product that potentially down the road, but right now we have unprecedented investment from the federal level in our transportation system. If we don't take advantage of that now, I think we're missing the boat. We could use the loan program to take advantage of that, but the way things are lining up now, I want to see, based upon the response we got from our municipalities that prefer kind of a pay-as-you-go method, how can we leverage that TIP now potentially without trying to develop a new product simultaneously?
What do you need from us today?
I don't know, anyone else on the line? Brian, Dan, Ryan, Steve, any of you guys have anything to add to the discussion?
No, I think this is Brian, what you've presented, Kirk, is really astute at taking advantage of the federal dollars that are out there right now. And that harkens back to former Commissioner Hertzler's mandate that anytime we can take advantage of that, we should. And these dollars are specifically earmarked for locally owned bridges in Cumberland County. And if we don't use them, they'll get redistributed to Cumberland or Dauphin or Perry.
So Kirk, you're pretty much looking for a motion for these three bridges.
Yeah, so today I would look for a motion to approve the Phase 2 local bridge program proposal. And then if there's any other guidance that the board would like to give staff in looking at kind of the year 2 and beyond of what you would like to see us bringing back at some point in the future here of a potential program. All ears for that.
I guess my only observation that would be, I know Brian and, sorry, let's see the gentleman's name. Brian, they have experience with the Dauphin County model, but I would presume there's a pretty big body of knowledge out there on options for administering this beyond simply that one model. So we cast a pretty broad net to look at options.
Yes, we could do that.
I think the culvert and drainage structures, Kirk, are big in most townships because I know many of those that were installed decades ago were made out of steel and they're rusted out. I mean, get that one.
I think for the kind of the year 2 and beyond, what I want to make sure is that if the board's okay with us starting to work with municipalities and trying to put together some program options. When I say that, bring back to you guidelines, eligible uses, and where you're at to. I don't want to be out there talking to municipalities about a potential program that the board's unaware of. So if you're
Right.
go for it, we'll be out working with municipalities on that, working with the board as well to look at some of the projects we could do under the current tip and also start to evaluate the loan program as well. So that we're all on the same page.
Yes.
That's fine. Okay, so we were talking about a motion.
Yeah, I'll be happy to make a motion to approve Cumberland County Phase 2 Local Bridge Program proposal as presented today, which would include total replacement of Ladnor Lane Bridge, South Middleton Township, Village Road Bridge, Silver Spring Township, and the superstructure replacement for Wildwood Road Bridge in Lower Frankfurt Township.
I will second that motion.
Okay, questions on the? We'll call the action. All in favor of the motion, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion passes. Okay,
All right, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Any additional reviews?
Nope, that's it.
All right, very good. Thank you. Gentlemen, thank you for being with us today remotely. If there's nothing additional on that topic, we'll move on to item 5, which is the other business category. So do we have additional issues to come before the finance meeting? Apparently not. Okay, if not, we'll entertain motion for adjournment then.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, we stand adjourned. Thank you.